Set for Life, Dominate Life, Money, and the American Dream by Scott Trench. Picture a young woman named Ellie. She's razor sharp, crushing it as a financial analyst at a major corporation, surrounded by people with fancy degrees who could calculate compound interest in their sleep. Her company offers this incredible perk where employees can buy company stock at a 15% discount. It's literally free money, a guaranteed 15% return before you even blink. Ellie, being the brilliant analyst she is, jumps on it immediately. A few months later, she's pocketed nearly $1,000 just for filling out some paperwork. Feeling generous, she creates a dead simple guide for her highly educated coworkers, figuring they'll be lining up to grab their share of this no-brainer opportunity. Crickets. Not a single person signs up. When she digs into why they're turning down what's essentially cash lying on the sidewalk, the excuses tumble out. I can't survive on a slightly smaller paycheck for a few months. What if the stock drops? The taxes will be a nightmare. One colleague literally told her, "I just can't be bothered." Ellie was floored. These were financial professionals who obsessed over every tiny raise and promotion, yet they were either too scared, too comfortable, or too financially strapped to grab guaranteed money sitting right in front of them. That's when it hit her like a freight train. The smartest people in the room can be completely clueless about money, and that safe traditional career path everyone worships, it might actually be a beautifully disguised trap. That story captures the entire spirit of the book we're diving into today, Set for Life by Scott Trench. This isn't your typical personal finance book full of boring budget spreadsheets. This is a battle plan for a completely different way of living. It's a wake-up call that says the traditional American dream, working for 4 decades just to retire when you're too old to fully enjoy it, isn't your only option anymore. In fact, if you're after real freedom, it might be your worst option. Scott Trench, a real estate investor and major voice at the massive Bigger Pockets community, maps out a practical, straight-shooting path to financial freedom that doesn't take 40 years. We're talking 5 to 10. Here's what I'm promising you. By the time we're done, you'll understand the 3-stage roadmap that takes you from zero savings to genuine financial independence. You'll discover the master strategy that transforms your biggest monthly expense into your most powerful income stream. And you'll see with crystal clear vision why that safe job everyone tells you to chase might actually be the riskiest bet you could make. This isn't some get-rich-quick scheme. This is about getting free for life. Let's start with the story most of us have been told since childhood. It goes something like this. Study hard, get good grades, land a stable job, and grind away for 30 or 40 years. Along the way, you buy a nice house in a decent neighborhood. You sock away 10 to 15% of your paycheck in a retirement account, and eventually, somewhere around your mid-60s, you finally get to retire and enjoy life. Scott Trench calls this the traditional American dream. His problem with it? It forces you to sacrifice the best years of your life, your 20s, 30s, and 40s, for modest wealth when you're old. You're trading the prime hours of your best days during your most energetic years for a weekly paycheck. But what if there's another way, a different game plan entirely? What if you could build enough wealth to retire from mandatory work, not in your 60s, but in your 20s or 30s? This is what Trench calls early financial freedom. It's reaching a point where you've built up enough income-producing assets that their earnings exceed your living expenses. Once you hit that sweet spot, work becomes optional. You show up because you want to, not because the bills are due. You can spend a random Tuesday afternoon at the beach. You can travel wherever you want, launch a passion project, or dedicate yourself to raising your kids or serving your community. You own your time. And owning your time is the ultimate prize. So how do you actually get there? It's not rocket science. It's a 3-stage journey, a clear path, from zero to financially free. The first stage, and Trench insists this is the hardest part, is building your first $25,000. This isn't just any 25 grand. We're not talking about money locked in a retirement account you can't touch until you're ancient. Not equity trapped in a house you live in, This is $25,000 in cash or easily accessible investments. He calls this your financial runway. Think about how airplanes work. A massive jet can't just leap into the sky from a standstill. It needs a long, clear runway to build momentum before liftoff. That $25,000 is your runway. It's the safety cushion that gives you the power to make bigger, smarter moves later. With roughly a year's worth of living expenses saved up, you suddenly have real options. You can walk away from a soul-crushing job, relocate for a better opportunity, or invest in a game-changing asset. Without that runway, you're basically stuck. How do you build it? One simple, powerful approach: frugality. Now, when most people hear frugality, they picture penny-pinching misery, skipping your morning coffee, and living like a monk. That's not what Trench means at all. He argues that trying to save your way to wealth by cutting tiny pleasures is like trying to empty the ocean with a spoon. It's painfully inefficient and makes you miserable. The data reveals that for average people, nearly 80% of spending goes to just a handful of categories: housing, transportation, food, and insurance. The lattes, streaming subscriptions, and new shoes, they're basically a rounding error. The real problem isn't your clothing budget. It's your rent or mortgage payment. It's your car loan and your hour-long commute. So Trench's philosophy is beautifully simple. Nail the big things, and you don't have to obsess over the small stuff. The first big thing is your entire mindset about saving. Many finance gurus love to preach, don't worry about saving, just focus on earning more. And while earning more is absolutely critical, we'll get there. Trench points out a fatal flaw in that logic for beginners. How exactly are you supposed to find time or energy to build a side business or chase a higher-paying job when you're grinding 9 to 5, completely exhausted, and barely making ends meet? If you lose your job tomorrow, you're toast. Frugality is what buys you the breathing room to chase opportunity. Imagine someone named Liz. She makes $50,000 a year, but spends every penny. An amazing job opportunity appears. It pays less initially, say $42,500, but offers a 50% chance of earning over $100,000 within 2 years. It's a career with real upside, a path to genuine wealth. But Liz can't take it. She's got bills piling up. Car payments, high rent, weekend expenses. She's trapped in her current situation. Now imagine a different version of Liz, one who's embraced Trench's philosophy. She's designed her life to cost only $2,000 a month. She's got thousands saved. For this Liz, that new job isn't scary at all. It's an incredible opportunity she can actually afford to grab. Frugality didn't limit her life. It opened doors. And here's a bonus most people miss. A penny saved is actually better than a penny earned. Why? Taxes. If you're in a 30% tax bracket and score a $1,000 raise, you only actually see about $700 of it. But if you save $1,000 by, say, moving closer to work and ditching your commute, you keep the entire $1,000. It's 30% more effective. The second core principle for building your foundation is becoming genuinely self-reliant. Trench has this brilliant section about the do-it-yourself mindset. Our society trains us to call experts for everything. We hire plumbers for dripping faucets, mechanics for basic car maintenance, and financial advisors to manage our money. But for someone earning an average salary, this is absolutely bleeding wealth. Learning to fix your own toilet by watching a couple YouTube videos is like paying yourself $100 an hour, tax-free. This isn't about being cheap. It's about being capable and taking real ownership of your life, instead of outsourcing simple problems at premium prices. This self-reliance extends to rejecting the constant pursuit of the best school district, the best car, the best television. Here's the truth. The best is usually absurdly expensive, and only marginally better than pretty darn good. Is a $2,500 4K TV really 10 times better than a $250 HD TV? Of course not. Chasing the best in everything is a trap that keeps people stuck in jobs they hate, funding lifestyles that don't actually make them happier. You don't deserve the best everything. You deserve freedom. So the first stage is really about a radical mindset shift. It's about building that $25,000 financial runway by ruthlessly cutting the massive expenses. Live with roommates. Move to a cheaper place that's actually closer to your job, slashing both housing and transportation costs in one strategic move. Learn to cook healthy, delicious meals at home. Drive a reliable used car, or even better, bike to work. By doing this, you're not just saving money, you're buying back your time and creating the flexibility to make your next major leap. Which brings us to stage 2, the climb from $25,000 to $100,000. This is where everything shifts into high gear. You've built your runway. Now it's time to take off. The focus changes from pure frugality to two powerful levers, transforming your housing into an asset and dramatically boosting your income. Let's start with what Trench considers the most powerful wealth-building tool available to regular people, the house hack. This is the signature move of the entire book. We've been conditioned to think a home is simply where you live, and it costs you money every single month. House hacking completely flips that script. The strategy is buying a property with the specific intention of having other people pay your mortgage. This might mean purchasing a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, living in one unit, and renting out the others. Or it could be as straightforward as buying a single-family home with extra bedrooms and renting them to roommates. The book walks through a compelling case study of average Joe weighing his options. He can rent a place for $1,500 a month. He can buy a traditional single-family home where his total monthly costs run around $2,400. Or he can buy a duplex for the same price, live in one half, and rent the other half for $1,500. When you actually crunch the numbers, the results are jaw-dropping. In the house hacking scenario, Joe's housing costs basically vanish. The rent from his tenant covers his entire mortgage, and then some. He's literally living for free. Even better, he's building serious wealth. His tenant is paying down his mortgage, building his equity, while the property value climbs. Over 30 years, the difference between renting and house hacking isn't just thousands of dollars. It's over $1 million in net worth. It's hands down the most dramatic financial move a young person can make. It takes your single biggest expense and transforms it into a money-making machine. You built that first $25,000 in stage 1, precisely so you'd have the down payment and cash reserves to pull this off. With your housing costs eliminated, your savings rate absolutely explodes. But Trench says that's only half the equation for this stage. The next step is tackling your income. Here he makes a bold, somewhat controversial argument. For most ambitious people chasing early financial freedom, a good salary job is actually the worst kind of job. Why? Because it doesn't scale. He maps out a typical career ladder for a finance professional at a big corporation. You start as an analyst at $48,000. With hard work and patience, you might become a senior analyst at $71,000 in a few years. Then a manager at $84,000. It's a slow, predictable crawl. The system rewards tenure and experience, not exceptional performance. If you're twice as productive as the person sitting next to you, do you get paid twice as much? Obviously not. You just get handed twice as much work. The path is predetermined, and your upside is capped. To break free, you need to jump into a career where your income connects directly to your performance, an objective metric you actually control. This usually means careers in sales, technology, starting your own small business, or freelancing. These paths often come with lower starting salaries, which feels risky. And honestly, it is risky, unless you've got that year-long financial runway. That $25,000 you saved gives you the courage to take a job with a smaller base salary but unlimited commission potential. It lets you trade short-term security for long-term unlimited wealth potential. You also need to find synergy in your pursuits. If you're a financial analyst, don't try launching an e-commerce store selling handmade crafts in your spare time. There's zero overlap with your existing skills. Instead, offer part-time bookkeeping or financial consulting for small businesses. Leverage the skills you already have to build something scalable on the side. So stage 2 is where acceleration happens. You combine an explosive savings rate from house hacking with a rapidly growing scalable income. Your net worth doesn't just climb steadily, it launches. Which brings us to the final stage, the journey from $100,000 to financial freedom. At this point, you've got a rock-solid financial foundation. You've got 5 figures, maybe even 6 figures, in accessible net worth. You're living for free or close to it. You're earning strong, scalable income. The momentum is building, the ball is rolling downhill. Now the focus shifts from just accumulating money to investing it intelligently. The goal is taking the cash you're generating each month and using it to buy or create assets that produce passive income until you hit the magic equation. Your assets multiplied by their return is greater than your lifestyle costs. When the money your assets generate each month exceeds what you spend, you're free. Trench lays out the difference between real assets and false assets. Real assets produce income or grow in value, like rental properties, stocks, bonds, or businesses. False assets are things people mistakenly think are assets but actually drain wealth. This includes cars, boats, and even your primary home if it's not a house hack. One of his most controversial false assets is a financed advanced degree. For someone planning a 40-year career, an MBA might eventually pay off. But for someone trying to get free in 10 years, 2 years of lost income plus $100,000 in debt is a massive setback. The book then explores the fundamentals of investing for early financial freedom. The single most important rule: never, ever spend the principal. The money you invest is gone forever from your spending pool. You only ever live off the returns it generates. This is the fundamental dividing line between wealthy people and everyone else. The wealthy put their dollars to work, and those dollars become employees generating more dollars forever. He explores 2 main investment vehicles: the stock market and real estate. For the stock market, his advice is refreshingly straightforward. Don't try to pick individual stocks. He tells this great story about Matt, a professional investment banker working 80-hour weeks with access to insider information, and even with all those advantages, he barely beats the market average by 1 or 2% after fees. You, with your full-time job and maybe a few hours of weekend research, aren't competing with other amateurs. You're competing with Matt. It's a game you're almost guaranteed to lose. Instead, he recommends low-cost index funds. These funds simply buy a tiny slice of every company in a major market index, like the S&P 500. It requires basically zero effort, has incredibly low fees, and historically delivers returns around 9 to 10% per year over the long haul. It's simple, effective, and completely passive wealth building. But his real passion is real estate investing. Why? Because it lets you harness multiple wealth-building forces simultaneously. You get cash flow from rent payments. You get appreciation as property values rise over time. You get loan paydown as your tenants gradually pay off your mortgage. And you get to use leverage, using the bank's money to control a large asset with relatively little of your own cash. You can also directly influence your investment's value by making smart improvements, boosting both its worth and rental income. For someone willing to put in slightly more effort than just buying an index fund, real estate offers a much faster path to serious wealth. Throughout this final stage, the key is religiously tracking your progress. You need to know your numbers cold, your real net worth, counting only actual assets, your monthly spending, your income sources, and just as importantly, how you're spending your time. What gets measured gets managed. Finally, Trench closes with a powerful chapter on habits you must ruthlessly cut from your life. Things like watching hours of television, mindlessly scrolling social media, or repeatedly hitting the snooze button. These aren't just harmless time wasters, they're dream killers. Every hour you waste on low-value activities is an hour you could have spent building your freedom. The journey he maps out isn't easy. It demands a mindset that goes completely against modern culture. It requires real discipline, consistent hard work, and the willingness to be different from almost everyone around you. But the promise is extraordinary. Not just a life of wealth, but a life of genuine choice. A life where you call the shots. A life where you are truly, completely set for life. As we zoom out and look at the complete picture Scott Trench paints in Set for Life, what strikes me most powerfully is how this isn't really a money book at all. It's a freedom manifesto. The money, the tactics, the strategies, they're all just tools. They are the hammer and nails you use to build a life where you control your time, your energy, and your destiny. For someone at the very beginning of their journey, this might be the most important message you could possibly hear. Society is going to hand you a very clear, well-worn path. It's safe, comfortable, and familiar. It's the path of the 40-year career, the big mortgage, and the slow corporate ladder climb. What this book does brilliantly is pull back the curtain and reveal that the safe path is actually a cage. Maybe a comfortable, well-decorated cage, but a cage nonetheless. It locks you into a system where you're perpetually dependent on a paycheck, always answerable to a boss. The most powerful concept in this book for me is the financial runway idea. It completely reframes the entire purpose of saving money. For most people, saving is all about sacrifice. It's about what you can't have. You save money so you can't take that vacation or buy that new gadget. Trench flips this completely upside down. Saving isn't about sacrifice. It's about buying options. Every dollar you save is actually an investment in your future freedom. That first $25,000 isn't just money sitting in a bank. It's courage in liquid form. It's the courage to walk away from a job you hate, to launch a business you love, or to grab an opportunity that could change everything. And then there's house hacking. This single strategy is so profound because it attacks the biggest financial obstacle most people ever face. We've been conditioned to view our home as our biggest investment, but for most people, it's actually their biggest liability. It drains hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. House hacking represents a complete paradigm shift. It transforms this massive drain into your most powerful, wealth-building tool. The concept that you can live essentially for free while someone else builds your wealth is literally life-changing. It can shave decades off your path to financial freedom. It's not easy, and it definitely isn't for everyone, but just knowing it's possible opens up entirely new possibilities. So what can you actually do with all this information, starting today? It can feel overwhelming, but real progress starts with small, concrete steps. Here are 3 things you can do this week to start building your own runway. First, for the next 30 days, track every single dollar that leaves your account. Don't judge it, don't try to change anything yet, just become aware. Use a simple app or even just a small notebook. At the end of the month, you'll have a crystal clear map of where your money is actually flowing, not where you think it's going. This awareness is the essential first step to taking real control. Second, calculate your current financial runway right now. Look at your savings and ask yourself, if my income completely stopped tomorrow, how many months could I survive? Knowing that number, whether it's 2 weeks or 6 months, gives you a concrete baseline. Your first mission is to extend it, month by month. And third, do a house hacking thought experiment. You don't need to buy anything or commit to anything. Just browse a real estate website and look for a duplex or a house with extra bedrooms in an area you might actually want to live. Run the basic numbers. What would the mortgage be? What could you realistically rent the other unit or rooms for? See for yourself if living for free is actually possible in your market. This simple exercise will crack open possibilities you probably never knew existed. This journey is about way more than just financial tactics and spreadsheets. It's about intentionality. It's about consciously deciding what kind of life you actually want to live, and then systematically removing every obstacle standing in your way. The path won't always be smooth, and it will absolutely require you to think differently from almost everyone around you. But the reward, a life lived completely on your own terms, is the greatest prize imaginable. That was our deep dive into Set for Life by Scott Trench. We've explored the core ideas today, but here's the honest truth. A summary is like looking at a photograph of an incredible feast. You can see what's on the table, but you can't actually taste the food. The real magic happens when you read the book yourself. It's in the detailed examples, the personal stories, and those quiet moments when a single phrase connects with something deep inside you. This summary is your map, but the actual book is the journey itself. If anything we've discussed today has lit a spark in you, grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning concepts. It's an experience that can genuinely transform how you think about your entire future. The link to the book is right there in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to keep exploring the ideas that shape successful people's thinking, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button. We're building a community of lifelong learners here, and I'd genuinely love to have you join us as we dive into more life-changing books together. Let's keep growing.